Hello, everybody. And this is not We're Talking Again. Watch out. This is Herb Talk, sponsored by Herbal Apothecary. And I'm Deborah Colleen Rose, one of your hosts. And our expert herbalist is Luann Morris.
Thank
And we're
you.
going to be talking about herbs. Go figure. And today's class or speech or talk or podcast or whatever heck you want to call it is on elderberry. But before we get started, let me read this to you. This is an FDA disclaimer. The products and statements made about specific products have not been evaluated by the United States Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. All information provided or any information contained or in any product label or packaging is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for advice from your physician or other healthcare professionals. You should not use the information given for diagnosis or treatment of any health problems. Always consult with a healthcare professional before starting any new vitamin, supplements, diet, or exercise program, before taking any medication, or if you might or suspect you might have a health problem.
And breathe. The other thing I say is most of the health benefits and other benefits that I talk about have been used sometimes for thousands of years by healers and herbalists and shamans. So that's where this information comes from. It comes from them and the proven uses that they have had. So not necessarily from a scientific study, although I have a few of those referenced. And the other thing is about herbs that I don't want people to just go out and forage for herbs if they haven't been trained or taught how to look specifically at herbs and their characteristics, because there are a lot of lookalikes out there. And some of the lookalikes can actually poison you instead of help you. So don't do that. Get your herbs from other sources that are reliable and organic and sustainably grown.
Isn't that one of the problems in the herb business just across the board, though, is because the FDA is not heavily involved in the research or promotion of herbs, is quality control?
That is a problem, is quality control. So when you find a brand that you like or that you feel has done their job, you should probably stick with that brand. There are several brands out there that are reliable. Most of them, I think that if you go to Sprouts or you go to Whole Foods, or I'm confident in the brands that they carry. So I don't usually worry whether it's one brand or another, but I like to get the organic brands simply because I feel like they have more rules and regulations to follow, and maybe they've done a better job. That's all kind of still up in the air about organic this and organic that.
I was
So
going to say, aren't herbs already organic? So what would make it more organic?
being raised without pesticides,
Oh,
that is a concern for many people. So it's how they're cultivated. Are they cultivated? Are they harvested wild? I mean, there are companies out there that do wild harvesting. So it just depends. Most of them cultivate. In the instance of like elderberries, it's
our subject.
yes, our subject for today. It's Sambucus, Sambucus nigra, Nigra. That is the genus and the species of the elderberry that was first discovered in Europe. Of course, now it grows everywhere. It's a large bush, sometimes a very tall shrub. It's grown all over. It's not really difficult to grow. I have ordered some cuttings from a company called, yes, what was it called? Stand by. I have that for you here.
But it's not native to America, is it?
No, but there are some that are native to America. They just have a different species, like canadensis, Canadensis. That's the American elderberry. And a company named River Hills Harvest, they have cuttings that you can purchase. And I have purchased some of those, and I am going to try to grow my own plants. You have to grow at least two because the elderberry bush is not self-pollinating. It needs a twin so they can pollinate each other.
Okay, we're not going to do any sex talk here. So
No, we're not. That's the extent of my sex talk today. But I'm just saying that one elderberry plant is not going to get you blooms and berries.
Got it. And
You
it's the
need
berries
two.
that you're interested in, right?
Correct.
Okay.
The blooms are very nice for teas, though, and they have the same antioxidants and nutrients that the elderberries have. So the elderberry, it doesn't mind growing in poor soil. It doesn't mind being wet, but it grows better if you're in drained soil. And something, don't ask me. I know what loomy soil looks like, but I don't know what its contents are.
It's got a lot of peat moss in it.
Yeah.
A lot of sand and peat moss.
Yeah, so it's best if you put it in well-drained soil, but it's okay for it to be wet. It just doesn't tolerate drought very well. And I said you need a second tree for cross. So you're going to have cross-pollination. So you're going to have berries the first year. You're going to have flowers and berry the first year, but the second year, the berries are usually better. They're bigger, they're more sturdy.
But so you're not going to grow this indoors because you're going to need bees or you're going to have to pollinate them yourself, right?
Probably. I know sometimes in the kind of like any flower, or I'm thinking about tomatoes, if you kind of shake the bushes, it will stimulate the pollen to be released.
Ah,
And
okay, I didn't know that.
and if they're right next to each other, they can self-pollinate that way. Sometimes it just happens with air, with the wind. There are lots of new varieties in the United States, such as Pocahontas Wildwood, which is WYLDE, Wildwood. Bob Gordon, which is considered a very large berry, and that's the one I ordered to grow. A ranch.
I dated Bob. I can attest to his berries.
One called Ranch and one called Adams. So they're all different. In other words, like the Adams ripens early, which would be June, July, May, June, July. And in the spring, like April, is when it blooms. End of March, April, beginning of May. So these are all different. I wanted the Bob Gordon because I wanted large berries, because the berries is what I use. But my recommendation is, if you do have a bush, when it blooms, take all the blooms from the top and dry them. You can use that for tea. And then the blooms that are reachable, allow them to mature into berries.
So we have elderberry tea.
Mm-hmm.
We have elderberry syrup.
Mm-hmm.
I know that a lot of country folk make elderberry wine.
All right.
What's the difference in syrup and wine as far as, you know?
Well, you ferment it, and it's a very rigorous, you have to ferment it several times. In other words, you set it up to ferment, and then you actually strain it and get out any old yeast and anything else that you want to take out. And then you recant it in another barrel or bottle, and you add more yeast and you do another fermentation. So it's not as easy as beer or wine, I don't think. It's actually can be very difficult. So let's move on to nutrients of the elderberry. Iron, potassium, phosphorus, copper, vitamins A, B, and C. It has 2 times the amount of C as orange does. It has
Wow.
proteins, fiber, and the purple color that it has, it's yeah. It's the flavonoid called quercetin, and that's the pigment in the berry. It's kind of a red purple pigment. That's where all the antioxidants are. So the berries are very powerful in preventing and managing colds and flus. When I was doing my research, I came upon several different papers, and one that actually gave one group elderberry syrup, and the other group they gave Tamiflu. And the elderberry group reported that 24 hours before the Tamiflu group that their symptoms were gone.
Wow, that's great.
Isn't that awesome? So it modulates inflammation, and all those antioxidants help alleviate any kind of radicals in your body. That's what all antioxidants do. They relieve the
So basically, you could be taking this every day as preventative for a lot of things, not just taking it when you actually get sick.
you could it I have a friend who actually says if she's feeling kind of down and maybe a little scratchy throat, she takes a tablespoon every morning until she feels better.
That's
And she
smart.
said usually she can she won't get sick. She can really, by just doing a tablespoon every morning. The thing with elderberries is you don't want to take too much during the day because it can cause diarrhea and stomach cramping. So you don't want to take more than 4 tablespoons a day.
Oh, wow.
So you have to be very careful. The other thing about if you're going to prepare your own, if you actually pick elderberries, do not include any leaves, stems, any of the portions other than the flowers or the fruit, because the bush itself contains cyanide.
Here, dear, I made you some tea with some stems in it.
And
You'll feel better.
it takes time, but it can cause a lot of trouble and it can kill you.
Oh my gosh. We don't
So,
condone that, though. We're not
oh,
suggesting.
absolutely not. So there was another study done through the Journal of, it was reported in the Journal of International Medical Research. Patients were given a dosage of elderberry syrup, and some were not. Those with the elderberry syrup recovered 3 to 4 days before. Let's see, this was for a cold. In Panama in 1995, they studied a flu epidemic, and they gave elderberry juice, not the syrup, because the syrup usually includes other things, but the juice from the elderberry. So it would just be like boiling the elderberry in water and letting it reduce by,
Milking those little balls.
yeah. So that helped all the symptoms, and actually cured their flu pandemic they were having, or epidemic.
Do you want to tell people a little bit of how you make your syrup, or is that trade secrets?
It's not a trade secret. There are thousands of different things out there you could do. And I talked about the Tamiflu. The World Health Organization did that. And this says that the patients with the syrup, other than the Tamiflu, their symptoms were recovered 48 hours before the other group. I thought it was 24. So let's see. The first written history of elderberries was in 400 AD.
Wow.
Hippocrates talked about using it to help with sickness. He didn't say what kind. They also found a tincture, which means that the elderberries were put in some sort of alcohol and processed. And they found that in the tombs in Egypt.
So tincture is just another way of saying wine.
Well, a tincture can even be made with vinegar. It was
Oh.
something where they extracted the constituents or the ingredients or the chemicals in the plant so they can use them, the antioxidants. So if you look on the shelves in the pharmacy, there's already so many that there's even one called Sambuca, which is a play on the genus Sambucus. And they're fine. They're really, but they have preservatives. And when I make mine, I actually order dehydrated elderberries from a reliable source. And I put them in the pan with cinnamon, echinacea, cloves. I use some lemon juice in there. There's something else. And of course, honey. But those first items, I just boil them together until the water is reduced by half and it concentrates the syrup. And then you drain out all the plant parts and then you add the honey. And the honey is what preserves the constituents, the chemicals of the elderberry, and the cinnamon and the echinacea. Echinacea is, we're going to talk about next, is something that when you feel sick, that's when you're supposed to take it. It's not something that kind of prevents a cold. It's something that supports you after you already get a cold. Okay, so you can find gummies, pills, other syrups. All you have to do is look in the market. If you want to
Don't get the gummies though. I have to tell you, because they're too much like candy and you will overdose on them. And then
you do
get the
have
side
to be
effects.
careful because if you go past what they recommend in 24 hours, you're going to have intestinal problems.
Yes, you
Trust me
will.
on that.
Yes, you will.
So there's but if you want to try what I make, I have a website, herbalu.com, HERBAL-LU.com. I can give you 8 ounces or 16 ounces. That's what I usually provide. There's also some kind of fun folklores about elderberry. There's a fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen. Everybody knows who that is. Called Little Elder Tree Mother.
Huh?
Yes. And it's said that a boy was healed by the elder mother that came out of the elder tree. She brought a pot of tea out of the elder tree and gave it to the boy when he was sick. It's a very cute story.
I've heard that, but I didn't make the connection between the two. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Because of course, there's a ton more things about elderberries. I mean, I'm just catching the edges, because most of the things that we have discovered about elderberries is long, like they said, that Hippocrates talked about it in 400 AD. Well, it's been used by herbalists and shamans, and they just used it probably by chance. Oh, I think this will help you, because they knew that by the color of it. I wish I could think of the exact name of the color. Darn it. What's
Purple.
wrong with me? Yes, but
It's purple.
don't go there.
I mean, really, how much more information do we need about the color? It's purple.
So, you know,
Grapes are purple.
they also use elderberries like for constipation, because if you use too much, you know what happens.
Yeah.
They can use it for joint and muscle pain, uh, breathing difficulties, headaches. Just
The only
remember
thing that I think
that
is interesting is how do they figure all this out? We have Google and we have libraries and we have people like you to educate us. How do they figure this out 1,400,000 billion years ago? That's
it
what's
was
interesting.
it was by chance. It was by um I used a purple plant to do this before. Let's try this purple berry. I mean, truly, that was the simple thing. Uh, and there's so much of this purple color in the elderberry. They even used it to dye things.
Right.
Just kind of like turmeric is yellow. There's so much yellow coloring in turmeric. They used it as a dye, and they do the
Right.
same thing with the elderberry. So it's crazy how they learn. Uh,
Well, we don't want you to give away all your trade secrets because we want people to come to you with questions and to buy products and stuff. So tell them how to find you again.
you can go to the website herballou.com. That's HERBAL dash lou.com. Or you
LU.
can, yes, LU.com. Or you can email me at herbalou1105. There's no dashes or no spaces. herbalou1105 at gmail.com. You can email me there. And that email is also on the website.
That's cool.
But so I have consulted with people on different health issues. Just remember that herbalists do not diagnose. I'm not going to. That's what doctors are for. And anytime you decide to take a supplement, it's best to find out what are you taking and will it interact with, because there are common herbs that especially heart medications, they actually interact with each other. Let's see.
Well, that's true of even prescribed medications. They'll say if you're taking this, you can't mix it with this. It's true of vitamins.
Right.
Like if you don't have enough fat in your diet, you won't absorb your calcium and your protein properly. So everything is dependent on something else. And it's important that people research and not just be, blind and say, oh, here's a pill, I'm going to take it.
Well, exactly. You cannot do that. And the other thing that they recommend is, even if you have the elderberries, do not drink the juice of an elderberry unless you actually boiled it, because so more of the cyanide can be in there if you don't.
Oh my gosh.
So you need to be very careful about any little twigs or the connections, the little twigs that connect the berries. You have to be careful that all of that is out. That's why I just don't say, oh, well, just do that.
Well, we're going to do more of these recordings on different herbs. So stay tuned, check in with us on a regular basis. We're going to be doing echinacea and cinnamon and cloves next, and who knows what we'll do after that. So she's a wonderful woman. She's a wonderful friend. She is a retired nurse. She's got some smarts on her. So, email her with questions or go to her website and see what she has to offer.
And don't be afraid when I say, well, I don't know that, but I will research it for you.
Exactly.
Because
That's
I can't know everything, but I do know with each medication that you take, it has to be separately investigated.
That's right. All right, babe. We will be logged back in with some more shows later, so y'all stay tuned.
Bye.
Bye.